I feel that the thicker bonds between three generations are the best thing to happen. The gut is the second brain. Our brain has million and trillion neurons. With tadka ka jo smell hai, that itself produces lot of saliva. While having food, one should not speak loudly. Saying thank you and sorry n number of times during the day is not of much help. Tell story about Spider-Man, but she could come up with stories of Hanuman as a Aji. I love to do these things.
Hello, viewers, and welcome back to this super amazing microbiome superhero podcast. This is a series on children's health that we are doing. We have an amazing guest with us. Guess who it is? It is somebody who is very, very, very precious to children's health. How? Well, I'm talking about grandparents. So, we have today a grandmother who is also a doctor. When we talk about gut health, I cannot stress on the importance of the role of grandparents in children's gut health. Yes, you heard it right. We are going to cover very interesting perspectives in this podcast, not just from the lens of a doctor, but from the perspective of a grandmother. So let us welcome Dr. Vijaya Datey.
Hello, namaste.
Namaste, Dr. Vijaya Datey. If you would briefly introduce yourself for the guests, that would be great.
Yeah, I'm a medical student. I've completed my MBBS and I have done few PG courses too. Most of them were related to preventive aspects, like prevention in industrial accidents, public health, geriatrics. So, in basically, prevention is the best thing to do. That is my sincere belief, and that's the reason I did post graduation in these. I worked in Mumbai Mahanagar Palika for 35 years. I shifted to Pune and I worked as a medical consultant for a few of the institutes. Though medical career is an important aspect in my life, the most important thing for me is the family life, my family, and of course, helping others' families too. So, my family, my near family, my extended family, all these play a very, very important role in my life. And I feel that the thicker bonds between three generations are the best thing to happen. I mean, those families and those grandparents and those grandchildren are really lucky. It's like a bumper draw for them. If they have three set of generations in their house itself. So these are my views. And I sincerely hope each one gets this happiness, these strong bonds of three generations being together.
Absolutely. The happiness that people have when they are with their grandparents, the amount of time that people get to spend with their grandparents is just priceless. From my own memories as a child, spending time with my grandparents, they are no more. But the time that I spent with them has been very, very precious. So, when we talk about the role of grandparents, especially grandmothers, in the growth of a child, so I'm talking about not just physical but emotional and mental growth as well. It begins before the birth of the child, taking care of the mother, taking care of the mother as a teenager, the father as a teenager, the mother during her pregnancy, the kind of foods that a grandmother actually feeds to take care of the mother. Could you tell us some of those things that this is so priceless?
Yeah, and these traditions are there in every state of India. They have their own set. I belong to Maharashtra, so I'm more conversant and familiar with few of the traditions that we have in Maharashtra. And again, as a sasuma, as a grandparent, as a aji, I love to do these things. And each and every woman, I'm sure, she loves to be helpful and loving towards all the members of the society. Like in Maharashtra, again, in other parts also, they do have few traditions. When the news of pregnancy is revealed to the elderly, either mother, masi, mother-in-law, whosoever, she is very, very happy. And every thought, every action of hers goes in favor of the woman who's pregnant. Initially, she's more protective. And that's the reason, we have what we call as chor chori. So till 3 months, pregnancy is not revealed to even the extended families, because earlier maternal mortality was really high. And as we study in embryology, the embryo till 3 months is very, very delicate. So even a miscarriage is not considered as something very pathological illness, but the embryo is so delicate. Getting attached to the womb, to the uterus, is a big thing to happen. And when the woman is 3 months pregnant, then she reveals it to her mother or mother-in-law, Masi. And then she, what to say, welcomes this pleasant news. She offers some goodies. She asks her daughter-in-law to be dressed in a green attire. Now, green is symbolic of earth, Mother Earth, with greenery all around. And the same creativity as Mother Earth is going to happen in this woman who's pregnant. And that's the reason she asks her daughter-in-law or her daughter to be adorned in green sari, flowers, anything which will make her happy. Then after a few months, she arranges baby showers, etc. All this is to please the pregnant woman. The earlier generation in the family makes it a task, like to have only good things happening in the house. We say Vastu always says Tathastu. So if there are some heated arguments or something, or some harsh words, the pregnant woman is protected from all these things. Not only the pregnant woman, even the younger ones, infants, while growing up to, utmost care is taken. So, this earlier generation, that is the grandparents, they act as extra buffer. Like when you see the older palaces, they had huge walls, strong walls, and then they had the water moats which protect the palace. So similarly, Aji, Azuba, grandmother, grandfather have this extra cushion, the extra buffer, which is needed for a pregnant woman, for a young child, for an adult child. And then she sees to it that this pregnant woman gets whatever she likes. At the same time, she's smart enough to see that it is good for her gut. So anything in
Yes.
excess, many times women crave for something more spicy, something hot, something with chili. She agrees to it, but she tries to balance it something, which will neutralize the spiciness. At the same time, she makes it a point to see that she has good, nutritious food, well balanced, because she's aware that the gut is the second brain. Our brain has million and trillion neurons, nerve cells, and 1/5 of that amount of neurons, nerve cells, are in our gut. The earlier generation may not be literate about all these points, about neuron, but they were definitely aware of it. That the best part to have a physically, mentally, and a emotionally strong person is through the gut. So if your gut is strong, you'll be far away from most of the physical illnesses. If your gut is strong, because as we say, health is ultimately physical, mental, emotional health, you know, well being, and not just absence of diseases. That is what we say. So even after the child is born, we keep the child away from, again, same thing, harsh things, harsh words, even the thoughts and the words through the panchendriya, sense of smell, sense of hearing, sense of touch. All these things are conveyed to the child, to the baby. Or if you hug a pregnant woman, and if the pregnant woman too shows the respect and offers namaskar to the elders. All this is a cycle. When you touch someone's feet, a complete cycle is formed. So, this way,
Absolutely.
having three generations in the family is a very good thing to happen.
Yes, you covered so many important points here. I want to highlight some of these. That when you said that there is such a positive atmosphere that is created by the grandparents or the parents of the mother to be or the in-laws of the mother to be. So when we think of manifestation or anything that we want in our life, we always hear that you will get what you think about the most, or our life will become as positive or negative as the thoughts that we have, as the atmosphere that we live in. This is such an important thing when people are living alone. Like when I was pregnant, I was all alone, nobody to take care of me, nobody to look at what food I'm eating, leave alone positive atmosphere. So when people are in nuclear families, this is very, very common. And this goes down to the gut, not just of the mother but of the baby also, the developing baby. It is so harmful. But when we think of the same thing in a joint family, it is automatically taken care of. And when you are talking about things like a baby shower, which is done at month 7, that's the time when the gut microbiome has been shown scientifically to change a lot in order to extract the most nutrition out of the food that the mother is eating. And to think of the traditional practice of doing this baby shower exactly at that time is so amazing, well thought of. That is the time when the mother undergoes a lot of changes in terms of the gut microbiome, in terms of the size of the baby, in terms of her own health. So all of the traditional foods that a mother or a mother-in-law would give to the would-be pregnant or the pregnant lady have been so well curated to provide the right kind of nutrition, very carefully prepared so that there is no reaction. Like they do not consume papaya at that time so as not to cause miscarriage. There are many such traditional foods which enrich iron, which enrich folic acid, which give a lot of nutrition to the mother and to the baby. So all of these traditional practices, even when we talk about after the child is born, the bond between the grandchild and the grandparent is something that is really, really priceless, because there are things that the kids, when they are close to their grandparents, are much more resilient, they feel supported. So what are your thoughts about that? Because children who are growing up alone do not have that kind of a support these days.
Actually, grandparents could be the best friends of young ones. And that is so because the bond, ultimately it's mind gut axis. And this mind gut axis occurs because of neurotransmitters. And these neurotransmitters are produced in our gut too. So there is a long nerve. I'm sounding a bit more like a medical doctor now. There is a long nerve called vagus nerve, which runs from brain, cranium, to the different organs of the body, okay, to the gut too. And as I mentioned, there are plenty of neurons there. And there are neurotransmitters which continuously signal the body. And there is one neurotransmitter or a hormone called as oxytocin, which is a neurotransmitter, and it is called a love hormone. So whenever a baby suckles a mom, or when a grandmother hugs a child, or any two people for that matter hugging each other, this is a release of oxytocin, and that strengthens the bond. Now, a grandchild is always rushes towards grandparents whenever they feel that the atmosphere is not so good. So whether their parents shouting at them or anybody, neighboring child having a fight with them, the first person that the grandchild rushes to is the grandmother or the grandfather. Again, because they are the best buffers to happen. Or if they are not ready to have certain food, the grandmother knows the exact techniques as to how she could stimulate casual and see to it. Like my own granddaughter, she would hardly have any vegetables, but she would love gul and tu, that is jaggery and ghee. So I would always tell her that with every morsel of vegetable and poli chapati, Later, you could have one morsel of tup and ghee. Now, had her mother or her parents strictly seen to it that she should follow this, I'm sure she would have rebelled. But as a Aji, you have that sort of a special control over the grandchild, and the grandchild readily agrees, or even before starting the meals, the grandparents or the aunts, I had my own aunt on getting pumpkin from the market. She would always say, it is so tender, so fresh. I'm sure it will cook in 2 minutes. Now, all this, you need not always tell about such things to your grandchildren. But when the grandchildren hear such sort of statements, as we always say, the gut stimulates more enzymes, not just because of mechanically or physically having the food, but because of the sense of touch, the sense of smell. With tadka ka jo smell hai, that itself produces a lot of saliva, the texture, the crispiness. And this is something which grandparents have little more time to discuss with the grandchildren. The parents are extremely busy, to say all these things. So that is the reason grandchildren can grow physically and emotionally as better adults.
Yes, yes. When we think of the interaction between grandparents and grandchildren, it just seems magical that the children are looking forward to meeting their grandparents because nobody lives in joint families. It's so rare to see it nowadays. But when we see children interacting with their grandparents, there is such a special bond, and they seem to share secrets very easily. Those are the things that they would never think of telling their parents, probably. So I see that with my children as well. They just feel very comfortable telling their grandparents, and they know their secrets are not going to be shared with their parents, so they feel very safe. It's a safe place to let out all of these emotions, and children who interact with grandparents, I'm sure, feel very well supported.
So, even we have during Makar Sankranta, we prepare til ladus. Now, all of us know that it's a combination of til, gur, and ghee. So, it's fats, proteins, everything, and antioxidants too. So, I've seen in many families, the grandchildren start helping their Aji to roll into those til laddus. So, it is not just the laddu and the protein and the carbohydrates that we eat. Along with that, it's the interaction which happens between two generations. The love, the warmth, all that helps, and it is for both of them, not only just the grandchildren. The grandparents too get extremely nourished. They feel they are wanted in the family. So it's a cycle, doer as well as receiver benefits from this. So many of the traditions, I won't say that old is gold, should be strictly followed. But with wisdom, one realizes that plenty of things in old are definitely gold for all of us. So,
Absolutely.
like when we come enter into the house, grandchildren, they are asked to wash their hands and feet. Now, all of us are aware after the COVID and Corona, the importance of washing hands, importance of washing your feet. This is such an important thing. Or while having food, one should not speak loudly, chew the food properly. My own granny, she was very submissive sort of woman and very quiet person, but whenever, and she had not much educated either, but whenever she would find that during dinner, if there are few harsh words spoken or if there is going to be a heated argument, she would just strike one steel glass of water on another, and create a tinkle, a noise, faint, and she would say Govinda, and everybody, rest of the members in the family would realize, oh, something is going wrong. We need not be harsh. Let us soften, let us quieten, let us minimize our decibels. So she wouldn't speak out all these things. And this helped a lot. It helped in creating peace and harmony. That itself had a great effect on the gut of all the people who were having food together. So I won't say it is not just family that stays together, I mean, prays together, stay together, but families which have three generations or more definitely stay together and are more healthy.
Yes, yes, because it's a matter of supporting each other. We talk about being with other people, sharing microbes. So when a mother gets so much support, she will be much better able to take care of her child properly. She will be able to breastfeed properly. The delivery will be smoother. Her health will be better. And then later on, as the children grow up, they are getting into good traditional complementary feeding, like the Annaprashan practices we have, where grandparents introduce these foods early on, which they will not develop allergies later on, because food allergies are becoming very, very, very common now. But that was not something that we saw. Whenever we see all of these traditional practices that have been carried over for generations, when you talk about Makar Sankrant, that is such an incredible example of all kinds of microbiome friendly foods put together at the same time. So these traditional practices get lost somewhere because parents do not have the time to practice all of these during festivals, or even tell their children about why we are doing all of this. So all of this handing down of traditions from grandparents to grandchildren is very important. It needs to be done. So for Makar Sankrant, the example that you gave of Tilgul laddus, it is high in calcium. We get the vitamin D from flying kites on the same day. We exchange seasonal fruits like sugarcane and berries in earthen pots. We make a curry out of multicolored seasonal local fresh vegetables, the bhogiji bhaji,
Vogue
and
ceremony. Yeah.
along with that millet roti, which has amazing fiber and micronutrients, vitamins. If we look at all of these combinations, they are the perfect one for a diverse gut microbiome. This is how traditions have been passed on. This is the importance of a joint family, not just in social connections, but in mental health, the support that grandchildren, grandparents both have, the nourishment that everybody receives, because now nobody has the time to cook all of these meals, nobody has the time to look at all of these traditions which have been practiced for centuries. There are so many scientific reasons why we should consider all of these, take them seriously.
Annaprashan ceremony that you talked about, it is conducted where the child is placed in the lap of his mama. So again, the extended family support or involvement or interaction is asked for. Similarly, while the first time when the hair is being cut of a child, he or she is placed in the lap of Atya, father's sister. So it's like getting in plenty of aunts and uncles and to be together, because they are equally supportive. So, as we say, it needs a village to raise a child. Similarly, you need grandparents, aunts, uncles, and all these extended members too. And that raises a child into a very good, strong adult.
Absolutely. So when we talk about all of these traditions where we are involving not just the family, the joint family, but extended family. And during all of these traditional practices, during all of the festivals, there's traditional food. And when we talk about prayers and spirituality, that is also something that comes from grandparents. This is not something that parents normally teach their grandchildren. It is traditionally the grandparents who teach the practice of prayers, of worship, of spirituality. When we live in a nuclear family, we just do not have time to go through all of these. We give up on things that seem the easiest, but these have the most long lasting effects on our mental health, on emotional health, on gut health. So this is something that grandparents bring, and they have a very strong influence on the mental health of children. So would you like to share your thoughts about
We used to have a elderly person visiting our house quite often, and my brother-in-law. And whenever he would visit, he would say, "Ki, I will perform the puja today." And he used to perform, whether he stayed for 5 days or 15 days, he would do the puja. And one fine day, I realized that my younger son, he would love to do puja. My younger son was fond of doing puja. While doing puja, the flowers which are already offered to God, while keeping them down on a plate, he would smell them. And I used to wonder, I mean, where did he pick this sort of a thing? So he casually mentioned, we offer fragrant flowers to the god, and these fragrant flowers are going back to dust. But before being dust, let us smell them. It is the fragrant nature, the characteristic which is offered to the god as well as to our house. So it is showing respect to these flowers which were live once upon a time, and which are going back to dust. So many such, not only traditions, even the behavior of others in our house, like when there is some courier person visiting us, offer him water, or a postman coming, or whosoever is at the door. So this is such a small thing, but as children, they just observe it and they start doing the same thing. So it's offering respect to the elders, which really helps. Again, it should not be just in words. Otherwise, saying thank you and sorry n number of times during the day is not of much help. It has to be from the bottom of the heart. So when the children observe that even our parents always do namaskar to our Raji and Azuba, our grandparents, they realize them that they are a part of a family, or atya, uncle, whosoever is there, whosoever is elderly. They offer their love and respect. The children observe it and they too start doing namaste. Now, namaste and namaskar is one of the best tradition which is carried out from North India to South India. Or if you visit, especially in South India, they offered food on banana leaf. Okay. Now, maybe many people in North India or Maharashtra or other states may not be aware of it, but they are offered a glass of water too. And each and every banana leaf is cleaned by water by every person who's going to have meals. Now, this is such an important thing, because in order to have a healthy gut, a healthy microbiome, microdome, each one should have, the infections are carried out by fecal-oral route, so it is by our hands itself. That is the reason water is offered, so that you can clean the banana leaf, and then the meals are offered on that clean banana leaf. So most of these traditions, if followed sincerely, are very, very helpful. Very helpful.
Yes, so the reasons are also like they are told in the form of stories. They are explained to the child in a very patient manner. And when children are taught to pray, to practice spirituality, it is some form of meditation. So we pay a lot to get meditation apps, to hear it from somebody else. Or, but if we take a look at our own culture, meditation was something that was very common. Prayers were very common. This is a form of grounding, centering, calming down. If we even look at where we place or install the idols, they are slightly higher than our eye level when we sit on the floor. That is because we raise our eyes maybe 15 degrees or 30 degrees. So scientifically, it has been shown to put us in an alpha state where we have these intuitive ideas or creative ideas. So traditional practices like this are actually very scientific, and they are going away because they are, people are not living in a joint family. But children who benefit from living or interacting with their grandparents get all of these handed down, or get all of these traditional practices. It brings about such a well-rounded personality in children when they get all of these traditions handed down, explain to them why they need to do that in the form of stories, in the form of family anecdotes.
And most of the uncles, aunts, grandparents have so many stories to be shared, and these most of these stories have lessons which the kids pick up. So one need not stand on a platform and teach all these things to a child, in a casual, regular talk, you can come up with such stories which would help the child to grow.
That children would love to hear as bedtime stories, or when they're playing with grandchildren, because they do spend so much time.
Yeah, very true. I've seen families where, on a regular walk, the grandpa takes his grandchild, whether visiting a bank or getting vegetables. And on their way, they come, there is a continuous dialogue between the grandfather and the child. And this helps, because they are familiar and conversant with bank things too. How to talk to a vegetable vendor, how to offer respect, how to use the currency. And you have, each one of us have observed the way a grandchild holds the grandparents' hands. It's supportive to both of them, even during crossing of the road. So the role played by the grandparents is enormous, and it's a ultimate joy to be a grandparent, So, and of course, it's beneficial for the child too, as well as to the in between generation, that is of parents, because parents wish plenty of good things for their kids, but there is hardly any time. And then they try to substitute it with some chocolates or some such sort of things, which are actually not needed by the child. Child needs more of attention. I have yet to see any grandparent who doesn't gaze into the eyes of the child while talking, while having a dialogue. There is a continuous gaze, and the child is aware that the grandparent is taking 100% interest into what the grandchild is talking about. Then, casually, the grandmother explains about Tulsi. She mentions about the trees, the role of neem tree, the role of people tree. So the grandchildren come more closer to the nature. She may not necessarily tell story about Spider-Man, but she could come up with stories of Hanuman, which instills strength in the child. The dialogue between grandparents and grandchildren is something not only creative, it's casual, it's loving, and strengthening to both of them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all of these wonderful insights. They were amazing. And thank you so much for joining today. I am sure people have learned a lot of interesting things about why grandparents should be in their children's life if they are not spending that much time. Thank you so much.
I like to end with just one thing, like we always say, "Jaise ahar vaise tan vaise man." That is essentially again because of the mind gut axis, and gut being the second brain. Similarly, I would like to strongly suggest that having a strong gut, having a good, healthy life is very, very important. And the most important thing is one should remember, whether a child or an adult, is there has to be proportion in our behavior. I won't say behavior, but daily life. Like I had a patient, he was from North India, and he would always say, "Ek guna khana, do guna pani, teen guna काम और चार गुना हंसना." So, in order to have hasi mazak in your family, one should have excellent relations between all the three generations.
Yes.
One should understand the importance of work or calm or physical activity, which is three guna. Two guna is just water, and one guna is actually food. So, hope in each and every family there is peace and harmony. Let's wish, yeah, and let's wish that most of the families get the benefit of three generations being together.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, viewers, if you think your child's health is important, if you are looking for improving the gut health of your children, the solutions are very simple. We don't have to look very far. Just spending enough time with grandparents. Yes, you heard that right. People who live in joint families are not just improving their own gut health, their children's gut health, their parents or in laws' gut health. It is improving not just physical health, it is improving mental health, emotional health. It brings about a well rounded personality in children. It is such an easy way to make sure that everyone remains healthy. Because let's face it, when we are in nuclear families, when we are alone, it is just impossible to keep these traditions that are gut friendly alive. It is impossible to give that kind of time to our children. It is impossible to do everything because we feel overwhelmed all the time. The solutions are simple. It was always there in our traditional roots. If you like this video, do share it with people who matter to you. Do share it with other grandparents. Do share it with your children. Do hit the like button. Do subscribe to our channel. See you in the next one.